Sorry, my friends. I realized my. Battle of Orion. Alright, chapter 5. As I said, chapter 4 was fun. Chapter 5 is a little bit better because it has a little fighting and there's more fighting in it. Welcome to Orion, my beloved, Stephen says. Some honeymoon, Stephen, Julia says as they look up to a large picture window in their honeymoon suite on the legend of the galaxy. As they look down at a beautiful blue-green world covered mostly in a lot of ice at both poles. The northern and southern polar regions are covered in ice, but mainly to the equator. There are about 5,000 square kilometers of land and ocean exposed for habitation along the equatorial regions, north and south of the equator. Why did we come here? I'm here to take command of all combat air groups at the base. Stephen says. Okay, Julia says as they hug each other as a small patrol escorting T-Wings by wigwagging their wings. I'm sorry this all happened like 2 months ago before we left for Ukrainia Prime to rescue you. I understand, Stephen. No need to explain yourself. You had to carry on with your life in my absence. But thank you for never forgetting about me. Julia, you were constantly on my mind from the moment I left Beta Geisel. Stephen says, hugging her. I missed 5 months of my life in that block. I know. I tried to get to you before that you were taken away, but that bounty hunter in Levnosky had other plans that we had no idea of. Plus, I was critically wounded trying to rescue you in Geisel City. They had to get me to a med center or I would have died. Do you trust the Baroness? Julia asks. Of course, at first, no. But she was with us when we rescued you on Ukrainia Prime, Stephen says. She was the one who released you from the block. I will trust her then, Julia says, nodding. If you trust her, I trust her. Julia, do not do as I say. Go with your feelings, Stephen says. What do your feelings say? My gut feeling tells me to trust her, Stephen. And so I will, Julia says. Good, beloved. My gut feeling tells me the same thing as soon as she turned on a dark ninja and that bounty hunter. Stephen says, smiling. They now change into flight suits to fly down to the surface in the southern polar region, as well as Hawk Base, a long secluded valley near the south polar region, carved out of the bedrock and ice field by the Rebel Alliance Corps of Engineers, with the help of the Orion Herd government. Julia wears her cat suit, one of the life vests featuring a chest piece, life monitor like all pilots do. Whereas Stephen wears a similar suit, but one that's thicker, made for the polar regions. You'll find out why here shortly. Here, put these on, Stephen says, handing her a pair of gloves and boots. Then he attaches a small quarter-sized device to the side of her collar and presses it twice. And she suddenly feels warmth envelop her body head to toe as she puts the gloves on. She then puts the boots on with his help. What is this? She asks. A new invention I am trying with you. No matter what time of the day or night, as long as you have the gloves and boots on, a small device to attach to the side of your neck. Now activated, you will be warm even if you are nude. But that cat suit will never feel cold either, he says. So I'll not need winter gear like you are wearing them, she asks. No, you will not. I'll try it with you for 72 hours straight. If there are no serious or minor malfunctions, I will put it into production. You are a genius, she says as they walk down to the launch bay of the massive space vessel, where an SF-28C Viper U-wing two-seat trainer awaits. He helps her into the back seat and straps her in. He's careful with her swollen belly, adding more give to the straps to accommodate her expanding belly. As she dons the plastisteel flight helmet over her head, he reaches out behind to plug in the helmet comms with the flight console to her right. All right. You ready? He asks now. As ready as I'll ever be. Let's get this over with, okay? She says. This should get a bit rough at first, but so hang on. He says the crane extends outside the launch bay into deep space, high above the planet. At the same time, two Y wings hover not far away. Rena and Hannah Baxter at the flight controls. Tiger Leader clear for launch. He hears as the crane releases him. He zooms away to join up with his old flight mates, Tiger 3, Hannah, and Tiger 12, Rena. There's a swarm of 75 more Vipers, T-Wings form up behind them, followed by a flight of 24 Goonie Birds, the ubiquitous U-Wing. I showed you a picture of that. He leads 5 flights, 4 Y-Wings and T-Wings, and 2 of the U-Wings, 2 of them. They all dive into the upper atmosphere of Orion. Steven forms up behind Hannah's flight, Vermilion Group, Steven's first flight he ever led. She is a lieutenant commander, whereas Rena is a commander, and Steven has been promoted to naval captain. He already has a small squadron of 12 Vipers and 12 U-Wings on site. Steven may be the CAG of the squadron is now operating in Hawk Base. He will let his 2 friends lead the flights down to the base and has no idea that the old man is among her squadron. He plans to follow them down to the surface but stop at the world capital of Orion City to chat with the herd, the government body. Welcome, Captain Prime Minister Gel Orta. The herd says, Welcome, Your Highness. Thank you, Madam, Steven says, bowing. Thank you, Madam, Julia says, bowing too. The PM, Prime Minister, stands at the head of the table surrounded by her lackeys and ministers, who nods. Steven and Julia sit down on the other side of the table, facing him. Thank you and the gods for coming to assist my people against the Empire, Orta says, wagging her tail. We will do everything in our power to keep the Empire from taking Orion, Prime Minister, Steven says. We arrived with an additional 75 fighters and 24 fighter bombers to add to our complement of existing fighters at the base. Excellent. Newborns and yearlings would grow up safe, Orta says, smiling. If you would allow us, Prime Minister, we could set up bases around your cities and villages as a defense against any Imperial invasion, Julia says, but we are willing to supply anti-aircraft guns and gun emplacements for defense as need be. Thank you, Your Highness, Orta says, nodding. We will take your offer under advisement, but we will not allow you to rebel bases near our cities. Understood? Understood, Stephen says, but our forces will respond to any call for help. Thank you, Captain, Orta says, nodding. I am honored that the Alliance would send the heroes in the Battle of the Void to help defend my people, one of Orta's advisors says out of turn. Orta looks at him, a look of anger in her eyes, and the herd, as the Orion Governing Council is called, knows that Captain Stephen Spears, Tiger 4, Commander Rigo L. Rena, Lieutenant Commander Hannah Baxter are now on Orion. The three pilots had gotten to the Dark Star's core and back out alive, and that Stephen was Tiger 4, the destroyer of said Dark Star. Thank you, Minister, Stephen says, smiling. The exploits during the battle are now part of our folklore, Captain Spears, Orta says, smiling too. I am honored, Prime Minister, Stephen says, bowing in his seat. So you're reinforcing your base in case the Imperials do attack Orion? Orta asks, yes, Prime Minister. And if the Imperials decide to attack one of your cities or villages, my forces will come to the aid of that besieged city or village. Thank you, Captain. Stephen and Julia rise to their feet and bow to the Prime Minister and then back out of the audience chamber. Then return to their Viper and lift off vertically to take off for the Hawk base at South Pole. Julia enjoys the southbound flight, passing over villages filled with beautiful centaurs who wave up at the passing Viper. The clear markings of a rebel Viper visible for all to see. An anchor. A golden anchor painted on the side of the fuselage. He lifts off to 75,000 feet and passes over a mountain pass with a dirt road passing across it. A small convoy of carts pulled by centaurs who wave up at them. Off to the right is a tall mountain range with ice caps over the summits. And a tall, beautiful, cascading waterfall cascades down to a crystal clear lake and river beyond. I could live here, Julia says, enjoying the vista. So could I, beloved, Stephen says as they pass through cloud banks south into the ice fields that now cover the majority of the northern and southern hemispheres. Feel like trying to fly for a while? Julia. Really? Julia asks, excited but nervous about this prospect of flying. Don't worry, dear. I'll be there for you if anything goes wrong. Plus, we are at 75,000 feet. Don't worry. Guns are set in safe mode, and the throttles are set to super cruise mode. But don't touch the throttles anyway. I'm ready and excited, Stephen, Julia says, smiling now. Put your right hand to the control column and see the levers on your left side, he asks. Yes, she says, looking at the throttles by her left hand. Don't touch them. Those are the throttles. Now look for a small digital gauge with a small Viper built into it. White line goes through it. That's your artificial horizon. Try to keep the Viper on or above the white line. If you go below the line, pull back on this column till the line crosses through the Viper. You're diving if you're below the white line. Don't worry. I'll watch your back the whole time you fly, I promise. I'm ready, Stephen, Julia says, smiling as she takes the column in her right hand. On 3, I'm letting go. 1, 2, 3. Both say as one as Stephen lets his Let's go to the column and raises his hands to show her that she's now piloting the Viper on her own. Whoops. That gets better. Sorry. As they fly, Rena and Hannah join up on either side of them. The Viper looks out of sorts for a Viper piloted by one of the best Viper pilots around, Steven Spears. Who's piloting that crate, huh, Skipper? Rena asks now. Why don't you look for yourself? Rena, pointing over his shoulder. Pointing with his hand over his shoulder and showing both hands now. Julia looks so nervous about it. Us doing our best to pilot the Viper single-handed. Julia, are you flying? Anna asks, surprised. Julia gives her a very unladylike hand gesture. You won't do that on here. That's the middle finger, okay? With a free hand. Sorry I asked, Hannah says, hurt but not amused. That was interesting. It's a little catch in my. I like changing adding stuff, doing stuff like that. All right. Give me a second. Seconds up. No. Hannah, I'm sorry about that earlier, Julia says as they walk to the ice cave corridors of Hawk Base a little later. I was so nervous flying for the first time like I was. No need to apologize, Your Highness, Hannah says, smiling. Julia, you had one of the best instructors around flying shotgun with you, too. Stephen, Mina says, smiling. Even if he had a mishap, he would have time to recover. How are you not shivering in this deep freeze? Hannah asks, seeing her in her jump cat suit. Stephen developed a new heating system that envelops my entire body, head to toe, in heat. All I have to wear are these gloves and boots, Julia says, resting Hannah's hand on her left arm. Now, wow, you are warm, Hannah says. So in its prototype, suppose it works continuously for 72 hours without any malfunctions. I'll put it into production, Stephen says. I'll get this invention of yours if it does work, Skipper, Rena says, touching Julia's back now. You're welcome to give it a try, my friend, Stephen says, nodding as they enter the cavernous command center, which is dominated by a 3D holographic image of the planet Orion and its moons. Along the circular wall, the center are many computer stations and hollow emitters. General Ort, the Centaurian commander, is there at the center near the holographic image of its home world, talking with other members of the Hawk Command. Reporting for duty, sir. Captain Spears and his command staff and wife at your service. Welcome, Captain, Ort says, turning and nodding to Stephen and his companions. Anything on the Imperial fleet near Thule? Stephen asks now. Nothing as yet, Captain, Ort says. But we do have patrols on the edge of Thule space, monitoring the situation there. Rena, I want you and Hannah to lead a patrol into the sector out there. See what you can find out, Stephen says, giving orders. Okay. Aye, sir, Ena says as she and Hannah dash out the nearest exit to the hangar bay. Be careful. Very careful, you two. I want you two back here in one piece. Yes, sir, Hannah says, nodding as they dash out the nearest exit to the hangar bay. Look into Orion, the Princess Lurkin. What should I say, Princess Spears? Ort says. Julia is fine, General. Julia says, smiling. Still getting used to the name. May I ask how you are staying warm in just your outfit you have on? Ort asks. Let's do it. My husband is a tinkerer and invented a small coin-sized device that will generate a field of heat around the wearer as long as they wear these gloves and boots. She takes his hand and rests it on her left arm. I must have these devices for my people when we venture into the Arctic regions of Orion. As you can see, 2/3 of Orion is covered in ice, Ort says, pulling his massive hand back. I will put it into production if this prototype works without malfunction for 72 hours straight, Steven says. I can't wait to give it a try it myself, General Seth Green of the Rebel High Command says. Seth Dietrich and Natuk walk into the command center and join their friends. Steven can see that his friends are looking cold in this deep Arctic freeze. Both were wearing winter parkas and snow pants, and they still look cold. Despite his natural winter fur, Natuk is still cold. What's up, little boy? I'll show you a picture of my kitty cat after I'm done. Sep, Steven says, nodding to his closest friend. Steven, Sep says, nodding back and trying to be professional. Hard to be when you're friends. Captain Dietrich, I hope the accommodations are to your liking, General Ort says. They're a bit cold. Smiling at his joke, Sep says, smiling at his joke. Steven smiles too. When did you two get here? We arrived a few hours ago, Your Highness. Now, how do you stay warm in that skimpy little catsuit you're wearing? Juliet explains everything about the gloves and the device on her neck. I keep putting my pages over here, but my book is over here. Wow, Sep says, pulling his warm hand away now. I'm going to get one of these. It's only a prototype. Suppose it works continuously for 72 hours without any malfunction. I'll put it into production. I'll take one of these little devices. You have a buyer, Sep says. Steve looks around the large command center, and sees some Centaur warriors working at stations, but most of the rest of the officers, men and women, here are humanoid. The 3D holographic projector and mini glass panel operation stations dominate the center of the room. You can see the base and the defenses outside on many of the panels. He also sees a 3D holographic projection of the area around the base outside, showing gun emplacements, trenches, and troop movements. And finally, his little touch of flair, fighter squadron deployments. Along with the position of the base's primary source of power, a large power generator at the southeast corner of the base of the long valley hop base is positioned in. If you'll excuse me, I shall meet with my squadron commanders, he says as he turns to leave. He leaves the command center to meet up with the squadron commanders in the ready room, located to the bay, close to the central hangar bay. He strolls into the room as Rena and Hannah stand there getting acquainted with the other pilots who were already here when they arrived. Attention, Hannah calls out, coming to attention. Steven smiles. as every man and woman in the room snaps to their feet. Thank you, but will you guys forget that, Stephen says, smiling, waving off the salutes. As many as you know, I am not one for formalities, Anna chuckles. Be seated, please, as you were. Everyone sits down, smiling. I am not here to look over anyone's shoulders. If you you see something that you think you can be done better than what you know is the norm here, do it without asking for orders. I am the commander of Air Group CAG here, yes, but I am also a man who believes in free speech and free thought. Now, please introduce yourselves and wait you fly, please. Yeah. Sir, I am Commander Rigo L. Rena, second in command here. Rena says, smiling. Lieutenant Commander Hannah Baxter, second in command. Second to Commander Rigo, Hannah says, smiling. I know who you two are. Thank you. Steve says, smiling back at them. It gets better. Lieutenant Aaron Kennedy, Lynx Squadron, flying the Goonie Birds, sir. The woman in the front row says, smiling. She'd flown at the Battle of the Void. I now command some 24 U-Wings here at Hawk Base. Glad to have them here with us, Lieutenant, Stephen says, nodding. In other ready rooms, the pilots who could not fit into the large ready room sit and watch as the old man, as he's been called behind his back, to his amusement. But he did not say that he'd be open. But he did say that he'd be open to suggestions and ideas, no matter who comes up with it, no matter their rank. Lieutenant J.G. Erica Burns, Angel Squadron, sir. Woman says now, seated in the front row. I'm sorry, in the back row of the room. I command 15 of the new T-Wings at the base, sir. Glad to have you aboard, Lieutenant, Stephen says. He's seen in action at the Void. He's seen her in action at the Void. She commanded the flight of the stealth Y-Wings. Commander Tomas Gonzalez, Hawk Squadron, sir. An older man says from the back row now. I fly the Aerofighter, the A-67. I lead at 20 A-67s, sir. Last but not least, I'm Chief Warrant Officer Stephen Hawkins, sir. I command the other remaining Y-Wings here. An older man says, smiling. Chief Warrant Officer, huh? Stephen says, nodding. She'll give you the brevet rank of lieutenant while stationed at Hawk Base. Thank you, sir. The officer says, smiling. He felt out of place among the officers. However, his actions speak louder than his words. Two of his close friends clapped him on the shoulder. He has a checkered past that has prevented him from being promoted to officer status. But his actions at the Battle of the Void spoke volumes for him. That's why Stephen had picked him over the officers. Look at that. I want you all to know that I hand-picked you all. And rank in your pasts mean nothing to me. Nothing. You are some of the best pilots in the rebellion. Rank means nothing to me. And here we are all equals. In battle, is where it counts. Understood? Yes, sir. Everyone in the room yells out, smiling. Now, shall we go for a small ride in our flight? Stephen says, smiling. The rest of the day, all pilots are out and about, zooming across the ice fields and tundra of Orion and passing over numerous forests and a vast ocean as they pass over Centaur settlements, cities, and towns around the world. The locals wave at them. Why not? They're there to protect them. Stephen wanted the Orion government to know that he was a man of his word. making his presence known and ease the worry of many centaurs' minds. He also wanted to test the abilities of his mounts, including the Y-Wing, the T-Wing, the U-Wing, and A-67 Aerofighter. That hinders the speed limitations of the other fighters, but only by a fraction. Right. Taking a little break. Let's see how many pages left in this chapter. Okay. It's a long chapter. But it ends very good. Yeah, it's a long chapter. It's okay. I hate this. Alright. Moving on. Day later. A nice cave turned into stables. Stephen and Julia are about to climb into the saddles at two Talon winter mounts. Bipedal hairy creatures that serve as rides for rebel forces to ride out on patrol. They stand 7 feet at the shoulder. That's a big animal. Have a long prehensile tail and have two prehensile arms with thumbs for hunting and eating. It has two horns on top of its snout and one beneath its chin, and a flowing mane like a lion or ligata. I use my local stuff. When captured at a young age, it can be tamed and trained to serve as rides for bipedal creatures. Otherwise, they roam the ice fields at both poles in herds of thousands. The rebellion personnel have captured some for use in operations around the ice base itself. They use them for ground patrol in addition to the A-67, which is used for aerial patrol. You sure you want to go out in this weather, Julia? Especially in your condition, Stephen asks, as he settles into his leather saddle, sliding his free foot into the stirrups as he does. I'm sure Doc cleared me for this as long as I can. Or I want to get too big to fit into the saddle itself, Julia says as she's helped into her saddles close by. Then slides her AKX 3616 blaster rifle into its holster on the right flank of her mount. Just making sure, Stephen says. He'd been here when the doctor released her for this. Plus, he knew he could never talk her out of this anyway. Too strong-willed. He now holsters his blaster rifle next to him. Both fly right out into a winter storm with visibility near zero, just as Sep rides up. Mind if I tag along, he asks. More the merrier, Skipper, Stephen says, nodding. It's getting boring, all this waiting, Sep says as he sees Julia up ahead on a Talon herself. She cleared a ride to these beasts. Oh yeah, Stephen says as he lowers a pair of snow goggles over his eyes. They ride on in silence for a while, stopping to check on perimeter markers along the way. Make sure they're operational, and installing a few along the way too. Heading southeast towards a massive depression created by an ancient meteor strike long ago. Okay, take a break. They pass a battalion of 800 Centaur warriors as they patrol along the base of the West Ridge, heading north towards the base. North. North. North is actually for me this way. Also passing the base's primary means of escape in case the Empire overruns the base, and a fleet of rebel transports, cargo vessels, and their escorts sit waiting. Not far off is the base power core. It's surrounded by a long line of trenches and several batteries of heavy and light guns, blaster cannon. But from this point south, nothing but open ice field and rocky outcroppings. Hey guys, you two look cold, Julia says, riding by laughing. Woman, I will make you pay for that stupid remark. Stephen calls out, chasing after her now. Damn kids, Sep says, and spraying his mount to catch up, chase after the kids. He spurs his talon mount. He kicks off after the lovebirds as a blizzard rages around them. Even with thermal undergarments and a heavy, thick parka and pants on, he feels the wind in his face and a thick scarf over his mouth. And snow goggles for eye protection can make them out using the infrared vision built into the goggles over his eyes. They also have winter cap over their eyes with built-in two-way radios built into the knit caps. Strapped to the right sides of the mounts are portable two-way radios as well. Or the trunk, or what do you want to call it, on the rear flank of the animal. There's a survival kit, first aid kit, and extra rations in case they get stuck out here in a blizzard. The leather saddle gun case, radio case, and rear supply pack were supplied locally. I make 2 known rebels wanted by the Imperium, Sergeant. Imperial Scout officer says, looking through his pair of electro binoculars from place of concealment high above the trio, riding along the valley below. Princess Julia Larkin and one Captain Sep Dietrich. Not sure who the third one is. But he and Dietrich escaped Imperial custody in Geisel City. Do we follow them, sir? Sergeant asked. Yes, but at a discreet distance. The scout team leader says. Lady Levnusky is looking for this elusive Tiger 4. One that this third party below is at Tiger 4. Both are lying prone on a high ridge, clear out of sight. Do we call this in, sir? Not till we get back to the ship, the scout leader says. As he and the sergeant slide back down the ridge behind them, leading to the KDFZ 300R Kubelwagen, Imperial Scout Car ISC, and the waiting driver sitting at the wheel, freezing as he cups his hands over his mouth to try and keep them warm. Back to the ship now, Corporal. Yes, sir. Driver says he dons the scout trooper helmet. Made for winter conditions like this. Sheet of plastic steel covered his mouth and nose, and the sergeant and lieutenant do likewise. The scout car zooms away on a cushion of air, kicking up snow. And nice as it does. Damn Imperials. A rebel scout says, seeing the car zoom away. She's not spotted in her camouflage winter gear. We gotta get this back to base, Corporal. Soldier next to her says, "We need to find out where they're going first, Private." The corporal says. And she stows her electric binoculars in his pouch at her side. She slides back to the bottom of the small ridge, separates them from ISC, now disappearing into the distance. They both jump into the front seats of the waiting general-purpose GP-60B Scout. A large, heavy blaster repeating cannon mounted in the back seat, the only other seat occupied by a radio operator. The corporal gets behind the steering wheel, steering controls the speeder car, and the partner gets in the front passenger seat. The corporal steers the scout car in the same direction as the ISC is going, nearing the massive meteor crater 7 kilometers south of them. Oh, to me, that'd be this way, to my right. They approached the last known sighting of the imps and stopped just below a ridge, looking down into the meteor crater, and the corporal crawls up to the top of the ridge. "Oh my gods," she says. Okay. You hear that? Sepp asks over the radio. "That's not thunder, Sepp. That sounds like heavy-duty artillery opening up. It is close, and that sounds close and getting closer." "Look," Julia says. The GP-60B Scout approaches fast, followed by blaster bolts plowing into the ice and snow around it, kicking up geysers that freeze instantly in place. The driver pulls to a stop right next to them. "Imperial forces behind us in the crater," the driver gasps out. "Get back to base and report it, Corporal. Now, Sepp, you and Julia do likewise. No arguments from you two either. Just do as you're ordered." What are you going to do, kid?" Sepp asks. "My radio's being jammed," Julia says as she plays with the two-way radio in her hands. "See if the corporal saw and reported in too. Now go." "Don't need to tell me to run, kid. I get it," Sepp says, as he chases after the princess, who is already heading north after the retreating scout car. The massive pillars of ice behind him don't tell him he is way over his head. With just his pistol, rifle, and a Talon winter mount, he runs off to catch up with the princess and the retreating scout car. Okay, now let's see what the corporal saw and try to report it back to base. Stephen thinks to himself. As he rode his Talon forward towards the meteor crater, just about a kilometer ahead of him, at the same time masking himself with his own samurai skills. He dismounts from the saddle and crawls up to the top of the crater rim and looks down into the most significant staging area he's ever seen. Oh my God. "Now, Took, are you seeing this?" He beams at his old friend. "Roger that, kid." Now, Took beams back. "Okay. I don't know how long they'll be there, but get Hawk Base on high alert immediately. Now, my friend," Stephen beams. "I will not be here for much longer. I will be back at base as soon as I get a better view of what we're dealing with. Just watch your back, kid." That's what beams in return. Below him, he sees 5 of the behemoth P-3000A ALBC armored land battle cruisers and many of the smaller M5707 AATSV armored all-terrain scout vehicles, also known as Striker, parked in a massive staging area in the center of the enormous crater. But he does not see any of the Imperial Scorpion fighters. The Pee-wee 3000 is a land cruiser armed with two battle cruiser-size main guns, fitted in a rotating turret, and a more miniature blaster cannon fitted into the forward glacis of the massive land cruiser, capable of carrying 85 heavily armed Imperial troopers. It stands as tall as an ice ridge, as the ice ridge that flanks the crater's sides. The Imperial Call is 75 meters tall, with turret 10 meters wide and 95 meters long, without blaster barrels. That's a big beast. The M577A AAT SV is a scout vehicle that can carry up to 6 troopers fully armed in the crew compartment, or carry wounded or injured personnel. It is armed with twin 75mm blaster cannons and a rotating remote turret on the roof of the vehicle. The turret operated from the gunner driver's position. A V8 ion-powered electric power core powers it. It gets around on 4 large mesh tires at the same time. The Land Cruiser is propelled by massive tank tracks. The armor is made of a plastisteel composite, Kevlar embedded in the Striker and Land Cruiser. Only a Mark 97 torpedo can stop a Land Cruiser, whereas a heavy cannon can stop the Striker. These vehicles are 4.9 meters long, 2.5 meters wide, and 4 meters tall. It's a big vehicle. Not really big, but it's big. I'm out of here, Stephen Beams. That took. Hurry back, partner. That's it, Beams. He jumps into the saddle of his Talon and kicks her back into motion. Headed for the South Ridge entrance, close to the escape field, whatever. I have to fix that. He passes parked Y-wings and a few of the newer T-wings. The ground crews are constantly maintaining it, while nearby several cargo carriers load cargo pods for possible escape if need be. He passes through the south gate of Hawk Base as he is recognized instantly by base personnel. He jumps down as he hears sirens blaring throughout the base. The base is on high alert, sir, Captain, sir. One of the Talon handlers says. I see that, Lieutenant. Steve says, nodding as he runs off to the command center. Thank the gods you made it back, Skipper. Rena says. He and Steven join them now. What have we got on imps so far? Steven asks, looking at one of the protocol droids close by. We have sent a high-altitude drone to recon the Imperial positions, Captain. The droid says, can't talk. They appear to be just getting into position for a possible move northward towards us. Nothing more. TS3 to Hawk Base. We are... The voice calls over the overhead speakers. Then he dies, filled with static. Oops. That answers that question. As to when the Imperial forces will attack. Okay. Get every fighter and aerofighter into the air now, Steven says flatly. Rena, and Hannah run off to the hangar bay where the waiting fighters await their pilots. Steven jumps into the two-seater Y-wing and is airborne moments later. No need to check in. This may get nasty, so watch your backs. Stick with your wingmen. No idea how many scorpions there are. Rena, you and Tiger Squadron. Come in from the north, escorting the Goonie Birds. Hannah, you lead Vermilion Squadron. From the east with the rest of the other Goonie Birds. I'll fly cover with the remainder of the fighters. Yes, sir, both say as one. Good luck to us all, Steven says, as he pulls back on a stick to gain altitude, followed by the other remaining Y and T-wing fighters. Ouch. He sees super battle cruisers swing around to the dark side of Theta Cygna's one moon. Bednos, Orion. On the ground, rebel ground forces take positions in the trenches around the base. And gun crews operate the mini batteries of Falmec P-36A light anti-personnel artillery pieces. There are many of these batteries, 4 guns each, plus the much larger and heavier Falmec N-30B heavy blaster cannons. Each battery has a set of 3 of these massive cannons per battery. 4 men serve each gun to a P-36, 3 to each N-30. However, these crews are aware that neither weapon is powerful enough to stop an ALBC, but they can easily stop the Striker. The N-30 can stop a Striker in its tracks. They all know that the Mark 97 torpedoes can stop one of the massive land cruisers. As big as those things are, yeah, you can't miss them. They scramble. Plan Alpha is getting underway to evacuate the base if need be, and just in case the base is about to be overrun. And only as a last resort, it comes to that. The Alliance knows it cannot leave the Orion people undefended, or the Empire will make the Orions pay for joining the Rebel Alliance. Whoops. Good luck, everyone. Godspeed, Steven says over the open comm channel. How the hell did the Empire get its forces onto the planet without us seeing them? Steven thinks to himself as he looks to the side of himself and sees a swarm of Y-wings and T-wings all around him. He watches Rena and Hannah lead their squadrons off into the unknown too. He made sure that every one of the U-wings was armed with a torpedo, along with 5 ALBCs to contend with. One should be able to get through to hit its mark. Too late to worry about that now, he thinks to himself. He heads south into the coming storm. TS-33 is only 5 kilometers to the southwest of Hawk Base as power core. Thank God I got Julia to stay behind at the command center, he thinks to himself. Sepp and Natuk are also part of the evacuation plan. I already agreed to get her off the planet if it comes to that. All flights, be on alert, look out for that all black Scorpion. It's a super fast and nimble for a Scorpion. He calls over the comms. Tiger, Vermilion groups. Worry about the Goonie Birds and ensure they get to reach their targets. The rest of us will take on the Scorpions. Roger, boss. Rena says. Roger, Skipper. Hannah says. He gets acknowledgments from the other leaders as they dive into the swarm of Scorpions now appearing on the radar scopes. They dive on the U-wings and their escorts only to be pounced on by Steven and his little angels from above. But then a new threat appears from above and behind him as he is forced to flee. Not her again. Look out for that bounty hunter. She's dangerous, he calls out. The wolf slayers fire on the scorpions and the troops on the ground. No rebels are attacking the Imperial fleet. I gotta rewrite that. That just seems wrong. Tiger leader, do not fire on me. I am on your side. Lone Wolf cuts into his comms now. Who said you serve now, bounty hunter? He asked flatly. Till I took the princess, I served the Empire. No more. I serve the Rebel Alliance now, she says as she strafes the Imperial troops below. I now know who you are, Tiger 4. Oops. I am not here to take you like I did the princess. I am here to fight the Empire. Everyone, do not fire on the bounty hunter's ship. She's on our side, he says over the radio now. His gut feeling telling him to trust this woman. He watches as one of the Goonie birds takes out a crawler easily with one shot of its Mark 97 torpedo, only to be hit and shot down by the last stray shot of the crawler's main gun. I showed you a picture of those things. Those things are huge. Lone Wolf now starts trying to protect the remaining Goonie birds as they line up on the remaining crawlers. Behind them, the wreck of the crippled crawler explodes, and the massive turret goes sky high into the snow-filled sky. He strays the troops on the ground below as he gives chase to a trio of Scorpion fighters, followed by his flight of 4 Vipers. It also fires some missiles at the strikers, disabling a couple by hitting their mesh ground tires. Moments later, another crawler is taken out by that torpedo into its port side, left side. U-wing does get away unscathed this time. The crawler slows to a stop as smoke and flame escape through hatches in the vehicle sides, and troopers jump out and try to join the attack, only to be strafed by passing Vipers and U-wings. My favorite fighter. I designed the U-wing long ago in high school, 40 years ago. Distance to target. General Armando Therm asks over his radio headset. 3.58. The computer in his crawler replies. Primary target in sight, but not in range, Therm says. He must be closer than 2 kilometers to make a good positive hit. But by the way the rebels are fighting back with those Goonie birds, he does not have a chance to turn off the power core used by the rebels. And they have plenty of those Vipers and those new, smaller fighters at their disposal. And now that supposed bounty hunter who supported the Empire has turned coat on the Emperor, and serves the Alliance. He is the elite crawler of the 3 under his command. What's your situation here? Levnovsky asks of a 3D holographic image on the console in front of him. The rebels have put up a stiff resistance, my lady. Do you need backup, General? The Dark Ninja asks. Too late, my lady. We are too close to the power core to pull back and await backup arriving in time. Therm says. He looks on as another of the crawlers is blown sky high. In orbit near the moon, a fleet of rebel vessels appears out of hyperspace to engage the Imperial fleet. This time the Imps are outnumbered once again, as sitting ducks to the overwhelming fleet of rebel ships. Levnovsky jumps to hyperspace without even calling for a retreat of her fleet. Kneeling with her pants down, Steven says as he downs another Scorpion fighter bomber and it drops bombs on the rebel trenches south of the power core. As more of the U-wings swarm into the fray. Aiming for the crawlers, strafing the trenches below, being knocked out of the sky by Steven's Viper. Sorry. Something just threw me off for a second there. We have 2 more crawlers get knocked out, or we'll lose the power core. Skipper Rena calls over his comm, over her radio. How many guinea birds we are left? Steven asks. Leveling up behind another Scorpion. He downs it with a missile and some blaster shots. We still have 12 U-wings with their torpedoes on station, Skipper, Hannah says. Good, let's get this over with before we lose this fight, Steven says flatly. As he looks on, another crawler is blown sky high. As the remaining crawler keeps rolling forward towards the power core. The anti-personnel and anti-armor Imperial forces are slowly taking out the advancing. Anti-armor. Sorry, I had to rewrite that. It's slowly taking out the advancing Imperial forces, and the remaining crawler is nearly on top of the rebel trenches and in range of the power core. The crawler gets one final shot before it's taken out with one final torpedo shot. The shot hits the top of the power core's tower, damaging the power core. Power throughout the base flickers and goes out, but still the remaining Imperial forces begin to retreat as fast as they can. Even thus, some 800 Imperial troops are captured by 800 Centaur warriors who surround them. In orbit, the Imperial fleet jumps to hyperspace at the loss of the ground forces on Orion. Thank the gods that was close, General Ort says, as the lights are restored moments after the last crawler is taken out. There is a secondary, smaller power core in the main base. However, it serves as a backup power source for Hawk Base. The Empire is running with his tail between his legs, General Seth Green says, smiling. We lost a lot of good people defending the base, General Ort says. I know, but for now let the Imperials run back to their ships and get off of Orion, Orta says. It should be General Green. My bad. Casualty reports are coming in from all over the base. However, it is light compared to losses incurred by the Imperial forces. On the Imperial forces. A cursory examination to the damage to the power core reveals that it's minimal and can be repaired in a few hours. They only lost 500 rebel troops in the trenches near the power core compared to the crews of the Imperial crawlers and the strikers. All right, everyone back to home plate now, Steven says as he and the Wolfslayer chase off the Imperial Scorpion fighters away from most of his own Vipers and the chase. Let's start over. Everyone back to home plate now, Steven says as he and the Wolfslayer chase off to remain the Imperial Scorpion fighters away with most of his own Vipers and the new T-Wings. But then he notices that his own Viper was leaking fuel and spewing smoke from every seam. Hannah, can you get back to home plate? No, Skipper. She replies, visibly wounded. I'll be lucky to get back in this wreck. Take your Viper and land. I'll join you shortly, Steven says, give me orders. Aye, sir, Hannah says. Her screen goes blank. Her Viper dove down to the vast tundra of the ice field well south of the main entrance and trenches, but well out of the range of rescue before darkness. Stephen dove after her and followed her down to land close to a crippled Viper. Wolf Slayer, follow Tiger 12 to home plate now, Stephen says to the bounty hunter. I will not follow your orders. I am not a rebel, the bounty hunter says now. So be it, Stephen says, as she lands the Wolf Slayer on the other side of the crippled Viper. Both pilots rush to the crippled fighter as Stephen lifts the canopy up to expose Hannah to the elements with snow falling heavily around them. Hannah moans in pain. The entire left side of her flight suit soaked in blood. Tiger 4, your friend he will not make it through the night, and Lone Wolf says. What do you suggest? Wolf Slayer has a med bay on board. I suggest we stabilize her. Sorry, I just had to look up. I suggest we stabilize her, then carry her to the Wolf Slayer. With this weather, we will not see any rescue efforts till the morning. Agreed. Stephen says, nodding as they work quickly to stop the bleeding and tend to her to the wounds. They then gingerly carry the wounded girl to the interior of the Wolf Slayer and set her gently into the med bay. Lone Wolf now works quickly to stabilize her, and her wounds are tended to. What made you change sides from serving the Empire to serve the Rebel Alliance? Lone Wolf, Stephen asks a little later as he eats some protein bars. Give you 1 second, damn phone. Damn phone. Protein bars. Okay. I was underpaid for taking the princess by the Emperor himself. And by the way, I did this only because I was being paid for it, nothing more, Lone Wolf says. Pulling the helmet off her head, revealing a beautiful woman with blonde hair and a scar across her right cheek. He now notices that she has an artificially created right eye. Then I found out I was getting no more bounties from the Empire, so I was tired of the Empire and decided as soon as I could I joined the Rebel Alliance. I know who you truly are, Stephen T. Spears, destroyer of the Dark Star, the Empire's prized super weapon, and my brother. My name is Bonnie H. Spears. Oops. Also late, lamented Earth. Okay. Half brother, Stephen says, correcting her. Half, Bonnie says, confused. Your true brother died shortly after his birth of a rare but ancient disease. I was put in his place. I was brought to Earth as an infant and raised in his place. But I know you wonder if my parents still live. They do, and now drive back on Centauri Prime. And you do have a baby sister, though. Mom had her just a few months ago. And you do have a sister-in-law, Princess Julia Larkin Spears, my wife. Mom, Dad, alive? Bonnie says, surprised and happy at the same time. Yes, they are, sis. Stephen says, smiling and nodding. They made it onto one of the last refugee ships to get away from the Earth before, well, still cannot fathom 7 billion dead in an instant. The girl we just rescued is from Earth 2, Von Steven says. Her parents are on Centauri Prime, and as soon as they find out what you did for them, you will not need to worry about your checkered past coming back to you. I have forgiven you for what you did to the princess, as have her parents. I will vouch for you in any hearings you may face. Thanks, Stephen, Bonnie says, smiling now. Why you do so easily? Forgive me. I took your future wife from you. Forgiveness is easy, says. I feel no ill will against you for what you did. You were doing your job. Besides, as you said, we are family, and family forgives. Wish I could say that. Yes, it does, Bonnie says, nodding. While outside the West Lair, a blizzard rages through the night. Bonnie has kept the ship's engines idling to keep the vessel warm through the night, along with every heating system on board working overtime, nearly completely burying the Vipers. The blizzard nearly completely burying the Vipers and drifts up to the cockpits. But the Wolf's Lair kept warm inside and out by the idling engines. Excuse me. Tiger 4, do you copy? Repeat. Tiger 4, do you copy? They both hear from the speakers alone on Wolf's Lair's deck, flight deck, as dawn finally comes to the barren plains of frozen Orion. Light seeping through the frosted over cockpit viewport overhead. This is Tiger 12. Do you read Tiger 4? Tiger 12, this is Lone Wolf. I read you 5 by 5, Bonnie says over the radio. Now, Lone Wolf, is Tiger 4 with you? Rena asks over the radio. Affirmative. And he is very much alive, as is Tiger 3. Bonnie says, looking down as Stephen tends to Hannah's wounds as she lies in the med bay of the Wolf's Lair. Can't talk. Sorry to have had to wait so long. The blizzard went on all night. Leave your humming beacon on, and the rescue team will be out there to extract you, Rena says. Understood. I will be able to get the Wolf's Lair into the rebel base without assistance, Bonnie says. My ship has been idling all night through the blizzard. She hands Stephen the headset radio. Rena, when we get back to home plate, have an emergency triage team waiting. Hannah will need medical attention immediately, Stephen says, cutting in. 10-4, Skipper. Lone Wolf? She is an ally now. She is to be treated with dignity. She helped me get Hannah to the Wolf's Lair and get her stabilized throughout the night. Roger that, Skipper, Rena says. Hang on to something, brother. Takeoffs can get a bit rough. Bonnie says as the transmission ends and a pair of Vipers pass by low overhead. Hang on to what? There's nothing down here to grip onto or strap myself it down. Stephen says as the Wolf's Lair lifts off and follows the two Vipers as they head north towards the main entrance to Hawk Base. Sorry, most of my passengers are either frozen in Lexington steel blocks or restrained in some sort of form or another. Understood, Bonnie, Stephen says as he gets a solid foothold on a handheld on the main deck of the Wolf's Lair. This large vessel lifts off vertically and starts flying northward towards Hawk Base. Bonnie parks just inside the main entrance of the cavernous hangar bay. And the rear ramp slides down and a hatch opens in the port side. To allow a medical team to climb inside and tend to Hannah Baxter, who is now carried out on a portable floating gurney. Sorry. Last page. Meanwhile, Bonnie is escorted but not arrested. She surrendered her weapons without fight. Stephen is also vouched for. She's led away to be interrogated by the RONI. As Julia rushes up with Sep and Natuk in tow. Is that Lone Wolf? Julia asks, watching as the bounty hunter is led away. Yes, it is, Julia, but trust me, she's now serving the Rebel Alliance. She helped me with Hannah through the night, keeping Hannah stable till morning. Stephen says, I should trust her. She's my half-sister. What? Julia asks, shocked. But why do you trust her? She took me away from you, handed me over to the Emperor. Julia, I trust her because she helped me save Hannah's life. That's it, Stephen says. Still hard for me to believe, but you two are sisters now. But I have two sisters. I trust your instincts, Stephen, Julia says, nodding and her understanding. I will do my best to trust her, but it will take time. Thank you, my love, Stephen says. And that is chapter 5. Chapter 6 is a lot shorter. Chapter 7, the last chapter, is even shorter than that. Like the first book, only 2 pages long. Chapter 7, the last chapter. But I will not tell you why. That has to wait until I can get ready to read both. I think I'll read both tomorrow at the same time, like I did the last book. But thank you, my friends. Have a good day. That was chapter 5. Chapter 6 and chapter 7 will be tomorrow. Have a good day, my friends. Thank you again. Can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm glad I am.